right. Holiday season is great for pumpkin pie. Love pumpkin pie, but what is pumpkin pie made of? We've got dairy in there, sugar, hydrogenated oil, processed flour, lots of stuff that you don't want to eat because all those ingredients contribute to poor health and disease. So I tried to make a pumpkin pie that it had the same creaminess, the same texture, the same taste, and the same satisfaction factor, but it's healthy for you and it's raw. So I think you guys are really going to love this. Well, actually, it's mostly raw. The pumpkin is cooked, but everything else in there is raw. And I just want to show you how quick and how easy this can be. Do we have any questions before I start whipping stuff up? Nope. Okay. All you need for this is a food processor to make the crust. Now in the crust, instead of using white flour, we're going to use macadamia nuts. When you choose your nuts, make sure they're raw. Make sure they haven't been roasted and salted because there's lots of healthy oils in raw nuts. And those oils are very heat sensitive. So as soon as you heat up the nuts, it damages those oils and then the oils aren't healthy for you anymore. So make sure they're raw. Make sure they haven't been roasted and salted. And I had a question right here. Yes? I did not soak these because I was in a hurry for the class. But generally, if you want dry nuts, you soak them and then you just dry them out and then you keep them in the refrigerator. So when you eat raw nuts and raw seeds, they're covered with a chemical called phytic acid and also enzyme inhibitors. And what that does is it makes it so it's really hard to digest raw nuts. So if people eat nuts and seeds and they get kind of a stomach ache, it's because those enzyme inhibitors are blocking their digestion, okay? Now, if you soak your nuts and seeds before you eat them, it dissolves all that phytic acid and all the enzyme inhibitors off the outside of the nut, and it makes it not only more digestible because the enzyme inhibitors aren't there, but it starts the germination process in most nuts and seeds, and that improves the nutrient density by sometimes hundreds of times. So you want to make sure that before you eat nuts and seeds, if you can, soak them. If you need them dried out, like for a crust or for trail mix, you can just put them in a dehydrator or in a warm oven to dry them out again and then store them in your fridge. And those nuts are going to be lots more nutrient dense than if you don't soak them. Did you have a comment, Aggie? I saw you raising your hand back there. Taken off? Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Aggie. I'll just restate it for people that didn't hear. She said white nuts, since they don't have the outer covering on them, you can skip the soaking process if you want. So like with cashews and macadamia nuts and nuts that are white that don't have the, like almonds and pecans still have the skin on. So with the nuts that don't have the skin on, she said you can skip the soaking process and you're good. Okay? I saw another hand, but I can't remember where.
Well, it seems sort of like you're defeating your purposes. I believe you, but could you explain why you would soak nuts and then dehydrate them? What was that?
Oh, good. So on the outside of nuts is the phytic acid and the enzyme inhibitors. By soaking them, it like soaks all that off, and you dump the soak water off, and all those chemicals are rinsed off. And then when you dry them, then they're more digestible because that outside phytic acid and enzyme inhibitors aren't on the outside. Okay.
How do you tell if nuts are rancid?
Oh, good question.
Because I bought some macadamias. To me, they smell rancid. They were raw.
If they smell rancid, they are. Okay. So the question was, how do you know if your nuts are rancid? If they smell rancid, they are. Toss them out because eating rancid oils is not good for you at all. They've been oxidized. If they're rancid, they're carcinogenic. You don't want to eat those. So first thing, smell them. Second thing, taste them. If they taste off or smell off, they're probably rancid. Okay. Also, as soon as I get my nuts and seeds, I throw them in the refrigerator or the freezer. At room temperature, they go rancid pretty fast. If you keep them in the fridge or the freezer, they last for a lot longer. Also, if they are broken up, if the nut stays whole, it'll be fresh a lot longer. If the nut's broken up like chopped or crushed or pieces, then it's going to go rancid a lot faster. Yes, one more question. Here's how the Cafe Janae classes go. So I put on these classes for free because I really want to educate the community about how to be healthier. And I do this at my own expense. And so the way that I make my money back is by selling the recipe books after class. And so I'll demonstrate. You can take samples. You can take notes. And then if you want the recipes for this and other recipes, I sell the recipe books after class. The recipe book I'm selling today it's called Healthy Holiday Brunch Buffet. And what it is I had a lot of requests for, like, what do I do for New Year's morning or Christmas morning when you want something that's easy and you can just put out on a buffet table, but it's also healthy and delicious. And I've created 20 or 30 different raw food and whole food crepes made with gluten-free crepe shells and dairy-free creams, dairy-free, sugar-free, gluten-free sauces. And so what you can do is make these crepes ahead of time, make the shells, and make some of the sauces and the dips and the fillings, and then sit it out on a buffet table, and then people can go by and make either sweet crepes with fruit and pudding and healthy whipped cream, which I'll show you how to make later, or you can make savory crepes with vegetables, asparagus, spinach, and savory sauces. So there's probably 30 to 40 recipes in the recipe book I'm selling today. Everything I demonstrate today will be in that recipe book if you're interested in it. I also have many more recipe books on my website you can check out if you're interested in those. I see a few people writing notes like mad. If you're interested in the background of what I'm teaching, I have a guide. It's called the Getting Started Guide, and it's $5. And what it does is it tells you what to eat, what not to eat, why, how to soak your nuts and seeds and beans and grains, how to prepare your food so you retain all the nutrient density. If you're interested in that, you can also buy that at the back door. It's $5, and I think it's well worth your investment just to get all the background information. One more, yes? That is the pumpkin pie we're making right now. Okay? You guys like it? Do you want to know how to make it? I'll show you right now. Okay, so instead of white flour, we're using macadamia nuts, and we're just going to put it in the food processor and make it into we're going to make it into a powder or a flour. So plug your ears, it's loud. Hang on one second. Okay, for those of you in the back, if you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but it's crumbly. It just looks like flour now, okay? Then what we're going to add to this is a little bit of pecans. Now, I grind up the macadamia nuts first just because they are a lot harder than the pecans, and the pecans kind of make things stick. So we'll just put pecans in there and make those into flour as well. Now, because I love the combination of pumpkin and chocolate, we're going to make this a chocolate crust. And what I'm going to put in here is some raw cacao powder. Now, raw cacao powder is just chocolate powder that has not been heat processed, it has not been alkalized, and it retains all those awesome nutrients of the superfood, the cacao bean. It's full of magnesium and calcium and minerals. And if you use it raw, it's one of the most amazing superfoods out there. It's got some great nutrition value, but as soon as you heat it up or cook it, or if it's been alkalized, like if you go get Hershey's chocolate powder, that's had pretty much all the nutrients destroyed out of it. So raw cacao powder is very healthy for you as long as you keep it raw. And we're just going to blend that up in there. If you don't want a chocolate crust, you can just leave the chocolate powder out. And then I've just got a little bit of maple syrup here. This is organic maple syrup. And I'm just going to turn on the food processor and just let it process until it turns like a graham cracker crust. You know how it looks crumbly, but then when you squeeze it, it sticks together. That's what we're looking for. Done. Now, for any of you that like to make pies, pie crust takes a lot longer than that, right? We're done. That's our pie crust. We're going to put it in a pan in just a second. And tastes delicious. I think you guys tasted it. What do you think? Is that a good pie crust? Okay, awesome. Now, let's see. I'm just going to drop this into the cheesecake pan and press it down, and it's just like a graham cracker crust, so it's pretty easy to make and pretty easy to put in there. Brian, can you get me a piece of plastic wrap, please? Thanks. I find that if you put it in the pan, it's a lot easier to press down if you just put a piece of plastic wrap or wax paper on top of it and then smooth it down, and then it's a lot easier to make it nice and smooth on the bottom. Okay, that was the pie crust. Now let's make the pie filling. You can make this taste like more or less pumpkin-y if you want, or you can make it taste more cheesecakey by just adjusting the amount of pumpkin you put in there and also adjusting the amount of cheesecake filling or the cream cheese you put in there. Now some of you might be thinking, I thought you said no dairy products and you just said cream cheese as well. So I'm going to show you how to make, yeah, if you can just smash that down and make a pie crust out of it. So for those of you that love cream cheese but don't want the dairy content, I'm going to show you how to make a really easy and awesome cream cheese. Now this is no regular blender. This is called a Vitamix. It's a high-speed blender, and this can liquefy anything. This is my super machine. I use this in my kitchen every day, several times a day. Can't live without it. So what it does is it's got such a high-speed motor that it can break down anything or liquefy anything. So I can take cashews or nuts or vegetables or fruits, and I can just throw them in here, and it instantly turns them into a creamy, really smooth consistency. If you do this in a blender or a food processor, it makes it a little bit harder to get it smooth. It'll just turn out a little lumpier, a little chunkier, but you can still do it. Just the texture won't be as good if you don't have a high-speed blender. If you want to go on my website, I have a link to the Vitamix website and another high-speed blender site, the BlendTech, and you can just click on this link and it'll take you to their website and you can browse around and see what they have to offer. All right, so instead of dairy for this cream cheese, we're going to use a base of cashews. I've soaked these overnight. Whoops. And they swelled up pretty good in there. We're going to do this in a couple different batches because, well, maybe not. We'll just make it work. Okay. So these cashews are soaked overnight, and again, that improves the nutrient density, makes them more digestible, and it also makes them nice and soft so they go creamy like cream cheese. We're also going to add some maple syrup. You can use raw local honey or some raw agave. I just like the taste of maple with pumpkin, so that's why I chose that. When you're choosing a healthy sweetener, usually I use either raw local honey, raw maple syrup, or some raw agave. Those are my top 3 sweeteners that I use instead of sugar or instead of corn syrup. That was vanilla. A little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of salt. Now when I say lemon juice, I don't mean the kind out of the bottle. Make sure it's out of a real lemon. You'll make me cry if you use bottled lemon juice. Don't do it. It's not worth it. This is raw coconut oil. And coconut oil dissolves, or not dissolves, it liquefies at 76 degrees. So if it's warmer than 76 degrees, that coconut oil is going to be nice and liquid. If it's warmer than 76 or colder than 76 degrees, it'll be a solid. Can you grab me some? I didn't bring my water jug back here for a little bit of water in there. The cool thing I like about the Vitamix is it's got this tamper. And what this does is if you've got something really thick in the blender, like a cream cheese, it makes it so you can jam it down into the blades. Otherwise, it'll just build up an air bubble in the bottom, and it's hard to do thick things. So I love this tamper because it makes it really easy. Oh, sorry, just a minute, guys. The water jug. Okay. Or if you can just get me a little cup of water. Okay, I'll take 2 questions while they're getting me some water. Yes? Yes. I do love, if you're going to ask me what I like the best, I do like Vitamix better. First of all, it's got the tamper. If I try to make most of my stuff like green smoothies that are really thick or cream cheeses, it's just hard to do it without the tamper. I also like this. See how it has this nice domed lid? The Blendtec has a flat lid, and so the capacity of this is a lot higher, and the lid fits on better, so I've actually had my Blendtec, the lid blow off, like when I turned it on high speed, and this lid is very solid. Thank you. I also like that the speed settings on here, there's an on and an off button, high and a low, or a high speed and a regular speed, and then there's a dial button where you can make the blade go faster or slower. I really like that setup because it's all manually controlled. You can do it however fast or slow you want it. So those are my main reasons why I love the Vitamix. All right, we're going to put just a tiny bit of water in here. Now when you're making this cream cheese, what you want to do is use as little water as possible because you don't want the cream cheese to be runny. You want it to be nice and thick. But you also need to put in enough water so the blades will turn and it's going to blend. So I'll just add a little as we need it. This is going, and it takes a little while. I had a couple people give me feedback. Hey, I tried to make your cream cheese and it turned out chunky. What did I do wrong? And most of the time what you did wrong is, A, you're scared of your blender, and so you turn it up on low and you're like, okay, baby, let's go. Come on, it's all right. Don't baby your blender. Just like turn it on high, and you got to leave it on high for quite a while, probably a minute, sometimes 2 minutes to get it nice and smooth. Beware with the high-speed blenders. They do create a lot of friction, which creates heat. So if you put water in here and turn it on for 2 or 3 minutes, the water will boil. So what you want to do is find a good balance between getting it nice and smooth but not getting it so hot that it's not raw anymore. So just keep an eye on it. I usually just keep my hands here and just kind of feel when it gets nice and warm, and try not to get it so hot that it's not raw anymore. Here we go. Plug your ears. Okay, that sounded pretty scary, right? We're good. The Vitamix also comes with a 7-year warranty, so you can be rough on it, and it's okay. It sounds loud, but we're mixing something really thick here. So I want you to take a look at this. It's nice and creamy and smooth, just like cream cheese. You made it out of cashews.
Can you make a cream cheese that isn't sweet?
Yes, you can. Actually, I just made it sweet because it's a pie. I've got the recipe for just plain cream cheese in the cookbook, and basically what is just your nuts, a little bit of salt, a little bit of lemon, and I put probiotic powder in there so you can actually make a cultured, probiotic-rich cream cheese. So it's actually like eating yogurt. You know how you get your probiotics in yogurt? It's like that, and you can get that out of your cream cheese. So you can make this sweet or savory, any flavor you want.
How long would it last?
If you put the probiotics in it and culture it properly, it'll last a couple weeks. If you don't, it'll last a couple days. 2 or 3 days. And then, the question was, how long does it usually last? Now, whenever you're making something raw, the quicker you eat it, the more nutrients it's going to have. The longer it sits around, the nutrients diminish with time. So you either want to freeze it for later use or eat it within a couple days so the nutrient profile doesn't diminish while you're waiting. All right, so to make the cheesecake, we're going to take all this yummy cream cheese. Just put it in a mixing bowl. You could put this like in a food processor or keep it in the blender, but I just find that if I fill it up too much, sometimes the blender doesn't like that very much. Thank you. I'm just going to put in all that delicious cream cheese. And again, just keep blending it until it's nice and smooth. And the recipes I put in my recipe book are just basic, moderate recipes. If you're coming straight off the standard American diet, your taste buds have been trained to like really sweet and really salty and really fatty foods. And after you've enjoyed the benefits of healthy, raw and vegan food without all that processed and artificial ingredients and lots of salt and sugar, you'll start to appreciate the flavors of just plain food. And so taste it and make sure that it's sweet enough for you or salty enough for you or it's the right texture and flavor for you. Sometimes if you're just coming straight off the standard American diet, you're going to want to add more salt and more maple syrup just to make it a little bit sweeter. It's totally up to you. You can make these recipes your own and make them work for you. So then I've got, this is the one not raw ingredient in this. This is just some canned pumpkin. You can either, cook your own pumpkin or steam your own pumpkin or get it out of a can. This is just 100% pumpkin. And cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. Now your pumpkin and any of your yellow vegetables, they have your beta carotene and your vitamin A in them, lots of fiber. Anytime you use spices in your food, that increases the nutrient density of your food. Spices are very high in phytochemicals and antioxidants. So anytime you can use spices, not only does it make your food taste more interesting and more flavorful, but it also improves the health benefits of whatever it is you're eating. So you just mix that up, and if you'll notice it's just kind of like regular cheesecake batter, right? And as this refrigerates, what it does, it's going to get really nice and hard, just like a regular cheesecake, and you'll be able to cut it with a fork, and it'll be nice and firm like a cheesecake. Sometimes if you have to add a little bit of extra water to get the blender to work, you might need to put it in the freezer to help get it nice and solid. But usually it works in the refrigerator. But what we like to do is make kind of like a freezer cheesecake out of it. And this is one of my tricks to how to eat healthy and stay healthy even under pressure. What we do is we make all these yummy desserts that are raw. We fill up our freezer with 3, 4, 5 different kinds of desserts. And then when you get that craving like, oh my gosh, I've got to have something delicious, or I have chocolate, or I've really got a sweet craving, you don't have to think about where am I going to get it, or should I eat that candy bar, or should I drink that soda. You go to your freezer and you've got some raw cheesecake or some raw brownies or some raw chocolate in your freezer. You can pull it out, eat it, and have a high nutrient density, healthy snack right straight away. So I totally recommend making this or some other raw, healthy dessert item that will calm your sweet tooth, calm any cravings, and give you some good nutrient density at the same time. So that's it. If you cut out all the time I've been talking, the crust took what? 3 minutes to make the crust, and the cream cheese filling, if you don't count the time, well, let's count the time it took to put the nuts in the water the night before. The cream cheese filling took less than 10 minutes, so in less than 15 minutes you've got amazing gourmet raw food cheesecake that's completely nutrient dense, made with whole foods, healthy foods, and it's way better for you than all the other Christmas treats that are out there that are highly processed, okay? Now I'm going to show you something amazing. What I love to do with this cheesecake is drizzle chocolate sauce on it, and this is my raw fudge sauce. All it's made with raw cocoa powder, raw coconut oil, a little bit of maple syrup, and a pinch of salt. Mix that up together, and that's the chocolate sauce that was on the top. And I've done that in other classes. I've done that in like 3 other classes, so I'm not going to do it again, but just realize that's the recipe in the recipe book. I drizzled that over the top. And what I am going to show you is something amazing. For people that like whipped cream, but they can't have dairy or they don't want to have dairy, I'm going to show you how to do an amazing whipped cream. It's not raw, but it's vegan and it's organic. Oh, there's my thing. This is made with organic coconut milk. I really like, it's upside down, but Thai Kitchen organic coconut milk. When you buy coconut milk, it comes in different quantities of fat versus water. So if you buy the light coconut milk, it's got like 10% fat in it and 90% water. If you buy this organic kind that's full fat, it's 90% fat and 10% water. So what you want is a coconut milk that has a high fat content in it, because you're going to dump off the water and just use the fat. See how much fat is in there compared to how much water I dumped off? So the way you do that is you put the can in the refrigerator, it makes the fat float to the top and the water sink to the bottom, and then you open the bottom of the can and all the water comes out and you're just left with the fat. So you just want to take that and scrape it out into a bowl. Yes, thank you so much for that comment. I just had a comment that said, could you please explain how this is good fat? Coconut oil is mostly medium chain triglycerides. Now what those are is it's a fat that your body uses as if it's a carbohydrate. So medium chain triglycerides, instead of your body treating them like a fat and just using them for storage, making you fat, medium chain triglycerides are burned really quickly, just like if you're eating carbohydrates. Also, coconut products have lots of lauric acid in it. They also have lots of anti-inflammatory properties, and the healthy fats in here are just actually really good for you. So if you're, this is a great subject too, the research, I love Dr. Furman. I don't know if any of you are familiar with his stuff, but he talks about how fat from animal products, your body handles out a lot different than fat from plant products. And so if you can just switch over to fat from plant products, that doesn't make your lipids go up the same way as animal products. It doesn't make your cholesterol and your blood pressure go up the same way as animal products. So just realize that it is a high-fat product. However, it's plant products. It's a medium chain triglyceride, and there's lots of health properties in this type of fat. And let's see, scrape that baby off. I'm going to show you how to take this coconut milk and turn it into whipped cream. Woo! You guys are going to love this. Beater? Oh. Just kidding. Hang on, got to plug it in. Now, instead of sweetening this with sugar, we're going to sweeten it with stevia extract. So if you are diabetic or if you have blood sugar issues, stevia is an herb that it's many, many times sweeter than sugar, and it can be used to sweeten things safely without spiking your insulin or spiking your insulin levels. So there's a couple kinds. If you want to get the raw, natural stevia that's fresh from the plant, the most healthy stevia you can get, you've got to use the green kind. It's a green powder that just takes the leaf, powders the leaf, and that is the healthiest for you. However, the disadvantages of the leaf are it has kind of a bitter aftertaste to it, and also it turns everything kind of a greenish color. So if you don't like the bitter aftertaste, but you want the benefits of having a low, like a 0-calorie, low glycemic index sweetener, you can use stevia extract. One important thing you got to do is remember to read labels. Most stevia products are extended with maltodextrin or some other kind of starch or sugar, and you don't want those. You don't want all those extenders like dextrose and that kind of stuff. So read the ingredients. All that you want in there is stevia extract, and that's it. You can get a little bottle of it with a tiny spoon, because one tiny little pinch of stevia is the same as like a whole teaspoon of sugar. So just be aware that stevia is really potent. You can also get it in liquid extract if you don't want the powdered extract, but just read the label. Make sure it's only the stevia extract and nothing else in the ingredients. So I'm just going to put a little bit of stevia in here. Now with the coconut, remember 76 degrees is the magic temperature that either melts or solidifies coconut products. So with this, it's been sitting out for just a little while, so it's getting kind of soft. All you have to do to firm it back up again is put it in the refrigerator and it'll get nice and firm. And that's it. You've got a dairy-free, delicious, see how beautiful that is? It's just like cream. And did you guys have that on your pie? If anybody wants a sample of it, when you go, you can come up and get a sample of it. When I give samples of this out to people, they're like, wow, I can't believe that's not real whipped cream. That's pretty delicious. So come get a taste of it. You will not believe it's not whipped cream, and it's totally easy to make.